Welcome inside the second floor of the Duncan Student Center for the second show, Inside the Irish. We will now be talking about everything but football. So you heard from Shamrock Sports, they gave you their predictions for the game this weekend, but Virginia football is not the only UVA team on campus this weekend. Men's soccer will face off against them tonight as well. So stay tuned for our thoughts on that game, as well as women's soccer and volleyball. Inside the Irish starts now.
Hello, I'm Father John Jenkins, president of the University of Notre Dame, and thank you for watching Shamrock Sports.
On 3rd and 8, drops back, the Irish bring 5. Thrown to the left, intercepted. Kyle Hamilton will go. Touchdown, Notre Dame. 1st and 10 from their own 42. They give to around the right side on the reverse. Running free, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown, Notre Dame. This is going to be a touchdown. Touchdown, Chris Finley. Touchdown, Notre Dame.
Second floor of the Duncan Student Center. I'm alongside Chris Frick and Finley Corrigan here. So first, we're going to take you into men's soccer a little bit. They played at Michigan State on Tuesday in the last game of a road stand that was pretty tough on them. They're now 4-2-1 and dropped to 0-2 to open ACC play. So guys, let's just talk about the Michigan State game. What'd you like? What didn't you like from that matchup?
Well, the one thing that I really liked was Michael Pellegrino scored his first career goal, the one goal of the game. That was the winning goal for them. So that was really impressive by him. You know, these young guys for Notre Dame have really done a good job of stepping up. Ben Jacobella scored his first career goal against Indiana. That was a tie game. So I really like what Coach Riley is doing, getting a lot of these guys experience.
And I really liked how we had some good opportunities early in the game, so I think it's good to always keep the momentum going and to start off good.
Right, yeah, and you're right. And that first goal didn't come, and only goal, didn't come till the 80th minute, but a lot of good looks early on for the Irish. So that was definitely a positive note there for Riley's squad. So you kind of touched on the younger players getting that experience. A couple breakout players now. This is a pretty young Notre Dame team, and they're going up against another pretty young team tonight in the form of Virginia. And now the goal is going to be preventing that 0-3 start to conference play. So Virginia coming in number 3 in the country. They're a really good team. They've beaten the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country now for the first time since 2014. And guys, that year they won the national championship. So definitely a tough test for the Irish tonight to see if they can stack up against the Virginia team. So let's talk about a couple of the players that we think might give them a chance to do that. Finley, who do you think might be that big guy for the Irish tonight?
I'm going to go with Jack Lynn, the sophomore forward out of St. Louis, Missouri, and he's actually the leading goal scorer for the Irish right now. He scored 4 consecutive goals in the first 4 games of the season, which is already more than he scored in his freshman year, where he only had 3. And one of them came in the game versus Denver, where they only won 1-0. He's constantly a threat. He tends to strike more in the first half, but he's always a threat. And as we're playing Virginia tonight, as long as the weather holds out, he scored the game winner in overtime last year when we played them in the NCAA tournament. So I think it should be a good game, and I think he'll be one of the top players.
Yeah, that he did, and it will be a good game, especially considering the history there between these two teams. Chris, thoughts on a different player?
Well, Caroline, I'm going to go with somebody who on the season has 0 goals, 0 assists, and just 2 shot attempts. And that is Jack Casey, the senior midfielder, the captain for the team. I really like what he brings to the team in terms of leadership. He's not a guy who really shows up on the stat sheet, but I really like what he brings to this team in terms of his leadership. And I think against teams like Virginia and with this tough schedule coming up for Notre Dame, I think the leadership off the field and the skill on the field, that combination is really what's going to make the difference for this Notre Dame team. So even though it may be a little bit untraditional to pick him as someone who might be like a player of the game, I really like him going into this Virginia game and in this tough AC stretch for the Irish.
That's a good one. And yeah, we've kind of seen the composure from the captains, especially coming off a couple of these road losses now. The captains have had to be the guys who kind of, tell the team it's going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Keep your composure. What you don't want to do is get on a pretty bad skid where you let that frustration build and you let it affect how you go into your next game. So the captains seem like they've kind of taken that mentality of a clean slate every game to heart, and it's been showing on the field, especially with Jack Casey and kind of that vocal leadership that he brings. And I'm going to go with Duncan Turnbull. So he's usually the starting goalkeeper. Wasn't this week on Tuesday. That was Keegan McLaughlin in his place. But it's very smart on Coach Riley's approach to try to have multiple keepers splitting time. And that was the case last year, too, with Turnbull. And it's smart because, like, for Virginia, for example, got to the NCAA tournament last year, had used one keeper the entire year, and he got hurt going into the tournament. So suddenly you find yourself in a position where you've relied on one guy so heavily that if he gets hurt late in the season, you're in trouble. So smart by Riley to have them kind of split minutes, but Turnbull clearly still the starter, and he should be in the net tonight against UVA. So expect to see him there. He does have 9 goals allowed this year, but if you look at who the Irish have played, it's against good competition, and he still does have that formidable presence for the Irish in the goal. He's another one of those vocal leaders. He brings that experience. He's my MVP for the Irish.
Yeah, Turnbull's a monster. He's 6'7" in that goal.
Yeah,
He's somebody who's really intimidating for oncoming teams. I mean, he holds a good presence. And you mentioned Coach Riley putting in Keegan McLaughlin. I really like what he's doing, furthering the depth of this team. He's doing a really impressive job of getting this team ready for anything. Anyone can go in at any time and make a difference for this team, which is important when you have such a tough schedule that Notre Dame does with the ACC.
Right, and more responsibility falls on Turnbull now because they've had some injuries to the back line. So when you have some of those defenders out dealing with different injuries, it does fall on him to be even more important of that guy. He is truly that last defense, and opponents are getting good looks on him. So more responsibility falls on him than if they had a completely healthy back line. So that's definitely something to watch. But we bring up the idea of depth. Do you think that Notre Dame has the depth that can take them on a run in the NCAA tournament this year?
I actually do. I mean, last year they made it to the NCAA quarterfinals. That's the farthest they've made it since they won the national championship in 2013. So, I mean, I think this year, with more experience and I mean, a pretty similar team overall. They lost some talent, but they also brought a lot of new talent in. I think they do have what it takes.
I agree with Chris. I think that we can definitely make a run. And our schedule this year, we have a pretty difficult schedule, but we've won some good games, so I think that we can definitely keep it going.
Yeah, I agree. And the interesting thing to keep in mind, too, is like when you're playing soccer in the ACC, especially like, you know, this year and the past few years, the ACC is such a strong conference. And so It was interesting. Coach Riley had kind of a funny quote, and he said the teams in the ACC, if you look at the top 30 in the country, 12 of them are probably in the ACC, and it's the 12 teams in the ACC conference. So when you look at those standings and you look at some of these teams' records, it doesn't always reflect the quality of those teams against some teams from other conferences because the level of play in the ACC is just so much higher than in a lot of other conferences. So Another thing for the Irish, and you see that, I mean, in basketball that's reflected too, that the ACC is tough to play in. So sometimes this Notre Dame team is going to go up against competition early in the season that's tough to play against.
And I think that's one of the things that does give them such a good chance to make a run. The fact that they've played this tough competition, I really think that playing that tough strength of schedule gets them ready for tournament play where they're playing some of the best teams in the country, but they've already played some of the best teams in the country. So they know what it takes to kind of win those games and to compete there, and I think that's really important for them.
Yeah, I agree. And we're also going to look at Virginia tonight. So to take a closer look at that matchup, number 3 and number 21, so a top 25 matchup. Big deal for the Irish now coming in. So an interesting note, too, is that Daryl Dyke, who is probably Virginia's best player, a sophomore forward, his brother actually went here and was the Big East Player of the Year in 2009 when Notre Dame was still in the Big East. So he'll be back tonight playing against the Irish. And that's kind of an interesting thing is Notre Dame does try to recruit brothers. And so both coaches have said, yeah, it came down to Notre Dame and Virginia for Daryl Dyke, and he ended up choosing UVA. So maybe a little bit of history there on the side of that family. So that'll be another storyline to watch tonight. But really, I think the big thing is just, you know, 2 relatively young teams with some strong senior leadership. And the question is just going to be like, you know, can Notre Dame get out to a dominant start to give themselves a chance to stay in this one later? Because Virginia, I think, has more depth than Notre Dame. So if Notre Dame lets this go on longer, especially with the weather kind of looking tough and having that obstacle there too, if they can't build a lead at all, I'm a little worried that UVA is able to hold on more at the end there.
Yeah, I think the weather is going to be a big factor. You mentioned that. It's going to be downpouring probably the entire game. So, I mean, guys are going to get tired out there running through the rain. It's going to be tough to move around. It's going to be tough to move the ball around out there. So, I mean, it's really going to come down to, I think, who wants it more almost. Like, it's going to be tough slugging out there.
And I do think, like Caroline said, starting off early, we have to come out really strong. And that's going to be a big thing. And also playing them last year in the tournament and actually beating them in overtime, I think that's good that this will be the next game that we're playing them in, so we just have to come out strong.
Yeah, and Notre Dame has scored first in 5 of 7 games, and in those, they are 4-0-1. So haven't yet lost when they've scored first. So that's going to be a big indicator, I think, against this Virginia team is can you get on the board early, and can you kind of establish that? Give yourself a bit of a cushion, maybe, against this really good UVA team. So we'll have to kind of see, but how much do you think the weather is going to factor into tonight, Finley?
I think it's going to affect it a lot because just like the field itself is going to be soaked. The ball is going to travel across the field much differently than it would if it was dry. And the players, they're going to get tired out there because it's going to be pouring. So I think it's definitely going to have a big effect on it.
Yeah, in Club Lax, so Finley now plays Club Lax here.
Yes.
When you played lacrosse in high school, can you think of any times where weather played a huge impact on you?
Yeah, it's definitely just like the visibility even, like especially because we have goggles and stuff in lacrosse and everything, but the ball, our sticks get wet, and it definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I don't have any high school sporting experience to go off of. But yeah, I think the weather tonight, I mean, Notre Dame's already facing an uphill battle. Colin Shuttler, Virginia's goalkeeper, in 7 games, only 1 goal allowed so far. So, I mean, they're already facing a tough goalkeeper there, and with the weather, it's going to be even harder to score. So I think the weather could potentially play a huge factor in tonight's game.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes tonight, and if the game is even played, because weather forecasts are showing that there are thunderstorms all night, even 100% right now at 5 p.m. So whether that's rain, they'll probably play through it. If it's lightning, they can't. So it'll be interesting to see if this one even is able to get going.
We're hoping for the best.
We are hoping for the best, as well as for tomorrow for football, because that weather forecast is not looking great as well.
No.
So fingers crossed, I think, for everyone here that game is able to go on as planned, because South Bend doesn't have thunderstorms. What the heck is? I think Virginia's bringing them.
We just have
Men's soccer and
permacloud.
football. Yeah, we do have permacloud. So what the heck, Virginia? Bringing the thunderstorms with you. My roommate is here from Virginia, bringing the thunderstorms apparently. But to turn to another sport now that maybe might not be so affected by the weather, we'll look at women's soccer. So they're going to be playing at UNC on Sunday. And they had a nice win this week, a resounding win that ended a 3-game skid for them. 4-0. So let's talk about that and what that win means, because if you look at the history of the program, last year they got off to a great start, then had a skid that they never really recovered from. So this year it looked to be the same story. Got off to a great start, kind of started to not look so great, lost a couple in a row. Now they won this one 4-0. How big is this win for that program?
I think it's huge. I mean, not only did they win 4-0, but they were dominant on the stat sheet. They outshot Pittsburgh 20-1. And that one shot from Pittsburgh wasn't even on goal. So I mean, it was a really important win. Just and in terms of momentum, it's huge. I mean, they probably had that 3-game losing streak in the back of their mind with what happened last year. So it's super big for them to kind of get this win and get back on track.
And especially going into playing some ACC teams who are super good, it was definitely good to get a win under our belt. And I was looking at the stats, and we had 4 corners in the first 10 minutes. So, like, we definitely have some good games, and I think that we can definitely keep going up from here. So.
And another big note from that is Kiki Van Zanten had 2 goals, which was very big coming off the bench for the Irish. And she talked after the game about the importance of coming in with the energy off the bench, and she did just that. She came in, scored 2 goals, so very impressive performance from her, and I think they're going to need that. And that's, I think, the key to stopping another skid like last year is, do you have the depth to really maintain this team? Do you have the depth in these games? You know, to win 4-0, you're going to need some players, especially going into the end of the season. You need some players to come off the bench and contribute to that. So Kiki did that in this one, and I mean, I guess the hope is that other players can do that as the season goes on.
Yeah.
So is there anything else for you that stands out in women's soccer? I guess the question comes down to, can they finish above 500? Because that was the story of last year. The first time ever in program history they finished below 500. So we'll start with you, Finley. What are your thoughts on that? Can this team finish above 500?
I think they can. The next 3 out of the next 4 games are at home, and at home this season we're 4-1, so that's definitely a good stat. And we've outscored opponents 15-3, so that's definitely a big thing. However, some of the teams that we're playing, like UNC, it's going to be a tough game. So the ACC matchups are going to be tough, but I think if we just keep going up on this like upwards hill, I guess, that will be good.
Yeah, I think Finley touched upon it well. You know, the good news for Notre Dame in that 3-game losing streak was 2 of those games were against number 7 South Carolina and number 10 Clemson. So they had some tough losses, and in those 3 games, they lost each game by 1 goal. So it's not like they were getting blown out by these good teams or anything. The bad news for them is that their schedule doesn't get much easier. I mean, they play this tough ACC conference like we've talked about. But I think in terms of the rest of the season, they have 8 more games. They have to win 3 to finish above 500, and I think they can do that.
Especially because this was their 6th shutout of the season, this 4-0 win over Pitt. So definitely a dominant performance. And another storyline that has kind of carried through this season is the goalie controversy. So still playing 2 keepers. Do you guys have someone that you think is going to become that guy for the women's soccer team here?
Well, I mean, Brooke Lippman played the last game. It was her first game in a couple games, and she had a clean sheet. Didn't have to do much, obviously, with Pitt only having one shot, but she had a really good goal kick that set up one of Van Zanden's goals. So I think that she's a good leader going forward. She's a senior. She's been through a lot before. So, I mean, I think that she's probably the right decision going forward.
I agree. It was her third shutout of the season, which is definitely good. And being a senior, like just being able to lead the team and have the defenders, they need to trust her. So I think she'll be the best pick.
Yeah.
Right. It's definitely interesting because the difference between the men's and the women's team, like we talked about, Turnbull's clearly still the starter for the Irish on the men's side. And then on the women's side, between Lippman and Tyrion, you have pretty much a 50-50 split. They've been both getting time this season, so there's not really like the clear dominant starter yet, but it does. Lippman definitely made a good case for herself in that 4-0 shutout.
Yeah.
So we can now turn to the third sport that we're going to talk about today, and that's volleyball. So guys, what are your thoughts on this volleyball team right now? Chris, want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start it off. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing out of them. I think a lot of their players have been stepping up. Zoe Nunez, Sydney Bent, Charlie Diego, and then Madison Cruzado as the libero. Like, she's been great. She's been all over the court. So I really like what I'm seeing from this team this season. Last season, they finished 16-12, 10-8 in ACC play. I really think that they could up it this year, get a little bit better, and improve better than they did last year.
And I agree. We play UNC tonight, so that should be an easy win. They're 3-7, and they've won the last two, but I don't think that should be a big issue. And like you were saying, I really like Charlie Diego and Madison Cruzado as the libero. She's been playing really well lately, so I think we should finish out the year strong.
And another tough ACC slate here, but they finished 10-8 last year. So my question now is, can they do better than last year? We'll do a quick over-under. Better or worse than 10-8 like they finished last year?
Me first?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with the over. I really like what I'm seeing out of this team. You know, they started 6-4 last season. They're 7-3 right now. And then last season, they, like you said, they finished 10-8 in ACC play. But 4 of those losses were 5-set matches. I think they can turn that around. If they can pick up some wins there, I really think they can improve their win total in the ACC. I take the over on that one pretty easily.
I'm going to go with the same thing, especially coming off with a big win against Michigan. We've proven that we can play these better teams. So I think we'll definitely finish up towards the top with Pitt because they've proven to be really good the last couple of years. So I think we'll definitely be up in the top.
I like the mentality. Life's too short to bet the under. Love that quote. So that's definitely a good sign. And the stat that stands out to me is that the Irish have 103 team blocks, which is 3rd in the ACC. So I think that's definitely a good thing kind of going into the rest of the season. Like, you know, to be at the top of the standings in something and show that you do have some strengths in the ACC, which is kind of tough. And, you know, if we look at last season finishing somewhere close to 500, you definitely want to establish yourself in some of these rankings as, like, towards the top of the conference. So I like that number there for the Irish, and I do think hopefully they pick up a win in this upcoming one. So now to kind of wrap up, obviously 2 UVA teams on campus this weekend. So a favorite in football is Notre Dame. The favorite in soccer is Virginia. So we're going to do a fun little split. Or what do we think is going to happen? Split or sweep?
All right.
Let's call it. Okay, let's start with you.
I think we're going to split it. I think football should be an easy win. Soccer, it's going to be a close game, but I think UVA will come out on top.
Well, Caroline, if you haven't felt the atmosphere yet, there's something in the air, and it's the spirit of UMBC. The number 16 team that beat Virginia.
Okay.
Virginia is going down twice this weekend. They are getting swept. It's happening.
It's so mean to bring up UMBC to Virginia again. Don't you think that's been thrown in their face?
Yeah, definitely been enough time.
I mean, it's till the end of time. I love doing it. Yeah.
You didn't pick the upset though, did you? You didn't have that in your bracket. No.
Definitely did.
Don't call me out like that. Don't stop it. No, we're off the air.
That'll be a conversation for basketball season. And we'll do our March Madness bracket, so that's still a way off. But it'll be definitely interesting to see who wins the Shamrock Sports one on that one, because Chris talks a big game when it comes to things like that. So we'll see if he can back up his words. And so, guys, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you, Chris. I'm going to give this one to the men's soccer team. I think that they have a chance to come out against UVA and be that dominant presence. Coach Riley has talked about aggression. He said he wants his team to be more aggressive, and I think they're going to have the ability to come out and do that. They know that this Virginia team is one of the best in the country. They know they've beat them before in prior years when the stakes have been high. I wouldn't put it past them to do it again. And, of course, football. We got to give it to them. We got to hope that this football team can beat Virginia tomorrow, and I really do think they have the tools to do that. So I like the predictions, and with that, we're going to leave it from the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. Thank you for watching Inside the Irish.
All night, babe, make me wanna say